This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where leaders, seasoned entrepreneurs, and business owners share their wisdom. It's straight to the point to respect people's time, and because we know knowledge and wisdom turn to business possibility, and possibility mixed with support and action become reality. In this podcast, we discuss leadership, sales, marketing, operations, team development, quality, and finance to drive sustainable results and everlasting impact to make the world a better place. Thanks for joining us.
Dr. Gene, super excited to have you here. The energy already, and we had some secretive conversations prior to the podcast, already high energy. Great to have you on the Unlimited Wisdom Podcast, Dr. Gene.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk to this audience, and I can't wait to answer the questions. So, okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
I love it. Let's go. So in a few sentences, would you be willing to share with the people listening and watching who a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Who is Dr. Gene, the results queen? So I have a Ph.D. in business psychology. So I'm a business therapist, which so many entrepreneurs love having a business therapist in their organization. And my clients crowned me the results queen because I'm all about getting results. So you marry those two things together. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. I started when my kids were really little. My daughter was a year old, and there was no such thing as mompreneurs. And along the way, I've had lots of different businesses. I've worked in Fortune 500 companies. I've worked with small companies. I actually started a virtual company, and along the way, I had some challenges. And one of them was, how do I get better? I don't necessarily want to get bigger. I just want to get better. So I hired 4 coaches. One of them happened to be a Harvard neuroscientist, and learned that everything here, what I called my caveman brain, is what was preventing me from being really super successful and living a life of amazingness. So once I learned that, I created the Caveman Brain Business Growth System so that everybody can deal with their caveman brain and harness it so that they can also be more successful and not go through the struggles that I did with all of those crazy voices that are in your head telling you that you're terrible and you're not doing it correctly. So that's what I do. Yeah.
Great points. And I love how you simplified that, because we can sit here and we can talk about the amygdala, or we can talk about the neocortex and, all these stuff, but does that really speak to many of us? Right. And so
What can you say? Can you pronounce it? Like, that's the challenge for me. I can't pronounce it all the time correctly, but caveman brain, I can say so easy.
Right on. I love it.
And
go ahead, please.
And my clients actually use it as a noun and a verb and an adverb, which is awesome. Like, it's my caveman brain, Dr. Gene. I'm like, I know.
I love it. Simple really is brilliant in my book, and what I like to say. And so I love the simplicity of it, but yet it is more complex, and I see how it moves it. So we'll dive in here in a little bit more depth. I want to hear. I'm dying to hear more, Dr. Gene, in just a moment. I love asking guests. I mean, so you bring a lot of experience to the table. You've been through a lot. You were very open about that from the first few statements. And like, what's the best thing about being in business for you?
Oh, you can live the life that you want. And it's so fascinating because we're not taught to live a great big life. We're taught to keep our light under a bushel. It took me a long time to be able to say, as I become more successful, I allow others to become more successful. And we're taught that you should get a job and like, be in corporation. But the fact is, once you learn how to be an entrepreneur, I mean, life is just, you get to do what you want, when you want, make the money you want. And as long as you tame caveman brain, the success is just unbelievable. And when I became an entrepreneur, my mission in life was to raise at the time 1, but now I have 2 healthy, happy, well-adjusted model adult citizens who are financially independent from me. That was everything that drove my business. As long as you have a strong mission, vision, you can go anywhere you want. And you have to deal with afraid of not leaving people behind or being more successful than others. There's some caveman brainness around being an entrepreneur, but the fact is that the life is just fabulous. And I would want everyone to live it. Even if you want to work for corporate America, you can still be an entrepreneur. I created my own job in corporate America. So it's called entrepreneur.
Great points all the way around. And Dr. Gina, speaks to me personally, and I know a lot of you listening and watching, it speaks to you as well. Many of us have had these things we've had to overcome, you know, worthiness, all that. And entrepreneurship is hard. Being a business owner is hard. And so as you come across those moments, those blockers, those barriers, those stumbling blocks, whatever they are, that's when they start to hit us. So I can see where overcoming your caveman brain. Had I only met you 30 years ago, Dr. G. And I imagine a lot of you are saying the same thing along with us. So this is great. I love hearing that. It's all about
the other thing
impact,
that's
right?
good,
And results for you.
Oh, it's all about results. But here's the other thing: you can't get fired from your job. Right? You create your own life. You can't. No one's creating your life for you.
Yeah. Right on.
So I mean, I don't think so. It's funny. I don't think of it as challenging and hard. Like those are caveman brain statements for me. I think, imagine if it was easy. What would that look like?
Yeah.
And it's just the next thing, you know, like in time, on time, everything happens in time, everything happens on time. And you just have to keep moving your feet forward.
Love it.
Shuffle.
I mean, you just made what's very complex, very simple, but it's also very brilliant. It's true.
Oh,
I mean, many of us, even through the hardest times, entrepreneurs, business owners, would be like, when we're pausing, like, do you love what you do? The answer is yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it, right? So great points. But yeah, there's some tough stuff to go through. So overcoming that caveman brain is a great way.
It's not tough. It's just challenging. You don't want to make it tough. Just make it challenging. And then you just overcome the challenge. And how great is that as an entrepreneur to be able to do that?
We get to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I love it. So you're going to love this question. I know you will, based on the conversation that we've already had in the flow. So we hear from other business owners, they're getting so much business that sometimes the chaos that comes with that, the overwhelm that can be experienced in that space, you know, it can be a lot. So would you be just willing to share your thoughts on that topic, Dr. G?
Well, so you have to tame the chaos. That's the first thing. In terms of caveman brain, you got to think to yourself, there's always going to be chaos in an entrepreneurial business. There just is. It is. I think of it this way: you never get to cross the goal line and spike the ball and do the happy dance like I'm done and I did it. There's always some mountain to cover, to climb, to go to. I say this to my clients. If you watch how to climb up Mount Everest, it's like, yeah, climb to base camp 1, you rest. Climb to base camp 2, you rest. You go through the death zone, which sounds, horrible. And then you get on the top of the mountain. You get 5 minutes to like jump up and down like you made it. You have 5 minutes for success celebration. And then you got to climb down. Right? So entrepreneurship is a lot like that, except you don't climb down, you climb up to the next mountain. But the fact is that we work really hard to get to the top of the mountain, and some of us don't even celebrate. You used to celebrate for 5 minutes, do the happy dance, and then find the next mountain. So I think chaos is always in a business. What's the top 3 things that you should be working on for the next 90 days? What's the priorities? Who's going to help you get there? And then you work those through. And then the next 90 days, you find 3 more priorities, and no more than 3 to 5, because our brains can't hold in any more than 5. And people are like, I got 26 things. Yeah, well, you can cross that off your list, because our brains, Harvard neuroscientist, he said it to me, and I actually saw another professor talk about this research. Our brains can only hold 5 things, not 26. So pick 5.
Say it again, Dr. G.
Get rid of those 5 things and then move on to the next 5 or the next 3. And I've been living my life in 90-day chunks, and I teach our clients to do that as well. And in 90 days, you can accomplish a lot. Yeah, so that's how you deal with chaos.
This brings me joy, this conversation. I wouldn't be able to say how often I have conversations with people that say, you're working on 100 things. How do you expect to achieve any? And it is very common in the beginning stages, as we all know, of entrepreneurship. And so I don't think we we could talk about this topic every day, all day, and it probably wouldn't be enough in the market today or in the future. So it brings me great joy to hear you bringing the neuroscience to this subject and to be to speak to that aspect as well as your experience to the subject.
If I may, our coach, Alan Weiss, who wrote The $1 Million Consultant, like he's the rock star of consultants, he said one day, do you want to move 100 things 3 inches, or you want to move 3 things 100 miles? And I keep that in my mind. And he said that a long time ago to us. I keep that in my mind all the time. What are you doing?
Wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. And so thank you for your perspective and your share there, because it's a very important one and very needed in the market all the time, always.
Thank you.
Dr. Jean, I appreciate you. But this is a fun question. I love asking this question from any guest who hops on. Who else ought to be, I won't should you, but ought to be on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast? Someone successful like yourself, Dr. Jean.
So I actually got 2, and they're both women. So the first woman who should be on your podcast is a woman named Vanessa Carrera. Now, how do I know Vanessa? So Vanessa, I was looking for an outsourced CFO, and I met Vanessa. And as entrepreneurs, and I heard someone say this once, great entrepreneurs are coupled with great financial people. We often can't be more successful unless we have a really good CFO who's doing the numbers in the back. Now, look, I know there's some entrepreneurs who are really good at finances, but I am not one of them. So Vanessa is a fractional CFO. She does the accounting. She runs my whole business and actually my whole personal life. And she's just brilliant to be coupled with is an entrepreneur. And I have recommended her to many, many people. And I think she'd be a great guest to talk about how she came to entrepreneurship, because she didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family. She has a really fascinating background, and for her to overcome all of her caveman brain steps to have the business that she has today is truly an entrepreneurial story. So she is absolutely someone you should talk about. The other woman that I really think you should talk to is a woman named Laura Ann Kelly. So Laura is a partner in her own law firm. She works with 2 men. So there's a whole aspect of how do you start an entrepreneurial law firm, right? Because lawyers aren't entrepreneurs, but they really are.
Don't tell anybody.
Don't tell them, but they really are. And Laura has such a wonderful way of how she's approached her entrepreneurship, how she works with all of her people. And I say to her, as she goes, her business goes, and she's overcome a lot of caveman brains. But the fact of her example of the fact that you are in a profession that doesn't necessarily celebrate entrepreneurship, and she's done an unbelievable job in her company, I should say her firm. You should really have Laura Ann Kelly on as well. She's just a success story that everyone should hear, especially people who are in professional services.
I love that. And I want to celebrate you as well as those 2 ladies that you just mentioned their names, and I want to celebrate you because the energy that you brought when you began to speak into the impact that they create. That's what gives me joy when they get joy from the service aspect of it and helping other people and creating impact. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, this life we live.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And the stories of what they do and how they do it is a beautiful thing. I can tell the depths of how you know it, and it's great.
Yeah, you're going to love them.
Dr. Jean, let's get to the crux of this. Let's dive deep into this Caveman Brain. What piece of wisdom would you share with your vast experience in the market with other entrepreneurs and business owners?
So we all strive to get to a level of success, and we hit that level of success, and then somehow we plateau out, wherever that might be. And then we get a little scared and nervous that we're going to go down the slippery slope. And it happens to all of us at some point. And even though we don't want to admit it, it really does. That's your caveman brain, and it's there to help you. Really, its only job is to make sure we don't die. So if you can harness it into the positivity of what do I want to achieve and use it to visualize where you want to go next, you will never be stuck in your business.
Now I'm intrigued. So we'd like to dive in a little bit deeper. So what I heard you say, paraphrasing a little bit. So we all get,
Sure.
we all get to some kind of plateau. And I've experienced this personally, of course, and I imagine a lot of you listening, watching have as well. So we get to a plateau, and then we start to fear this slipping back maybe to where we came from. And so that's like fear of rejection or whatever, however these symptoms start to appear, and we start to go back to what we know. So how do we break through that? Because what I heard you say is some shifting into some positivity, and sometimes that stuff sounds a little woo woo. And so
Yeah.
how do we get there, Dr. Jean? Tell me more.
Yeah. So I know about the woo-woo-ness, and we're going to leave that for another day. The best thing I can say is that we're all elite athletes, and we need to think of ourselves as elite athletes. And if you look at elite athletes, they all have a team around us. And a lot of entrepreneurs feel like I got to do this by myself. The truth is you can't. You need a team around you. And the best way I can tell you this is that about a year ago, and this probably came from COVID, but I've always been able to see the next wave of my business. And I always think about it as that I'm catching a wave, I ride it, it puts me down on the beach, I look out to the horizon, I see the next wave, I swim out and get on my surfboard and surf on that wave until, and I repeat the process. But I couldn't see the next wave out. And I was getting really nervous about my business because I thought, well, where is it going? And rather than, and for a while, even myself, I was talking to my team and talking to my friends and what am I doing? And finally I was like, you know what, girl, you got to just drink your own Kool-Aid. Why don't you hire someone who can help you? And I was like, wow. So I said to the universe, that's a little woo-woo, but God, spiritual energy, whatever it might be, because all of us entrepreneurs deep down inside, we're all looking for some woo-woo-ness to help us do this stuff. And I said, please send me the person that I need. And literally the next day I'm on a phone call with somebody, a Zoom call with a bunch of people. And I was like, that's the guy. And I hired this uber master marketer who had worked with American Express to come in and help my company figure out where we needed to go. And he was like, you don't need marketing, Jean. You need a rebrand of your whole brand. And I was like, rebrand of my whole brand? So I wrote a huge business plan. Took a couple of weeks, and next, I caught the next wave, and now I have the next wave after that. And sometimes you just need to get some outside help, the outside perspective, and have that team around you. I'm a huge Roger Federer fan. I know he just retired, but he had a coach, he had a masseuse, he had a nutritionist, he had an agent, he had like 7 people around him. He didn't do it alone. So if you think of yourself as Brad, what does it take to run Brad? And how do we make Brad better? And you're going to need some outside help to do that. And just suck it up, Buttercup, and do it.
Brand and Brad and Buttercup and Brilliant, all like one. It's great. But this isn't about me. This is about you, Dr. G.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm happy to promote you too, Brad. It's, you're awesome. So like, who would want to listen to all this? This is just amazing.
I love it. You bring great points. So we all hit a plateau. We all experience this fear, or, however you feel like it's the symptoms that are, they're coming up, but we all hit it. And so how do you move through it? One is you recognize it, right? So you become aware of it. Next is you reach out for help. Now, here's a sticking point for a lot of business entrepreneurs. Like, I'll just work it out. I heard you say that, like, softly, like, we're independent. We're just going to do it on our own. We'll get it done. Dr. Jean's here to tell you that's not working very well for you.
Go on, hire the best expert that you can afford and find, and your business will excel. I had a consultant once said to me, well, he was a colleague. He said to me, show me a person who has a coach at the age of 25, a business coach at the age of 25, and I will show you a person who has made a lot of money and is super successful. But most of us come to coaching or consulting or hiring someone in our business to help us like in our 40s, maybe our late 30s, 40s, 50s. And you think to yourself, well, geez, Louise, well, why didn't I hire you like 20 years ago when I could have used you to accelerate my organization? And it's our Caveman Brain, and the badge of honor that I do myself. And the reality is that do it with others. Because as you shine, everybody else in your company is going to shine too. So why are you going to make people in your company suffer through what you're thinking? Even if you're a solopreneur, somebody's suffering with you. Trust me.
Dr. Gina, this subject, as simple as it is, speaks to my heart and resonates with me deeply. So 40 years, I was a stubborn individual, taught to do everything myself, be independent, not interdependent, but independent. And that's what I did. And wow, for those of you listening and watching, wow, how I wish I would have broken through that resistance earlier on. So I'm hoping, as I know there's somebody listening and watching and going like, yeah, I don't need that. You're still hanging on. I can do it myself. I'm telling you, the moment you give in and surrender to just asking for a little bit of help with the right person, you got to get the right fit, right? Like Dr. Gene and people who have been through it. Let's be real. There's some people out there that will take your money and, take advantage of it. You got to weed through that. You got to vet them, but you get the right fit and you will skyrocket. The minute I took that move, that she gave up the resistance, went ahead and just paid the darn link. I was so resistant to that. Like, no, Dr. Gene. But the moment I did it, expanded a whole new horizon. So I share this not to just get all in my personal stuff, but I want to encourage you to really listen to what Dr. Gene is sharing here, because it's a really important point.
So I'm going to give 3 points. One, ask Vanessa that question, because she's the one who's, as a financial person, she's like, I don't want to pay for that. Ask her how she broke through. That's a really good question to ask her. Second thing is, we do an exercise called JAR. What are you judging? What are you attached to? And what are you resisting? So if you use that, just the little exercise, and check yourself like every 30 days, then you can start to think about, how do I work through those things? Right. And don't be like Brad. No offense. He's a great guy, but yeah. This whole I do myself thing is a caveman brain. It comes from your parents, your culture, your life experience, or your childhood. It's not a bad thing to get someone who can help you accelerate, as opposed to fix you. Don't look at it as fixing. Look at it as acceleration. I'm accelerating the business.
I love it. And I love the JAR. So that's the kind of stuff this audience loves. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, say that again. JAR.
So, you want me to say? You want me to say it again? Judging. So what are you judging? Mm-hmm. What are you attached to? And what are you resisting? And if you if you make those 3 columns and do it once a month or once every quarter, and you write down those things, and you can be like, because what you're judging, attached to, or resistant is the things that, if you were to move through, would make you super successful.
Those are the things holding you back.
Simple, we do this all the time in our companies. When we teach our clients, it's all simple exercises that don't take a lot to make a huge impact. Which is why today, one of my clients was like, that's why I like working with Dr. Gina Results Queen, because it's always about results. I'm like, I know. And the other thing, Brad, I can't stand these people who take your money and give you nothing. It makes me crazy. It's one of the reasons why we have a guarantee in our company. Because when I started my business, people were like, I hired someone just like you, and all I got was this binder. I'm like, oh, really? Why don't you get results? Like, what do you want? And we'll get you there. And if not, then we'll give you back your money. And I have to tell you, there were clients I can think of too. We fired them, and we wrote them back the check that they gave to us, because we were like, oh no, we're highly prescriptive. We're going to get you where you want to go. And if you don't want to follow those steps and you want to do the thing, then here's your money back. I don't want to be that terrible consultant or coach that says, can I have your watch? I'll tell you the time and give you $100. Yeah, no.
Wow. I love it.
Great coach.
Results, simple things that create a big impact, and then guarantees. And I love hearing this. This is like music to my ears, because there are so few people in the space that we're talking about here that actually give a guarantee on results. Like, really? Come on, people. So, Gina, I love hearing that. That's powerful. Like, look, if, we're so confident that we can deliver for you, we're going to guarantee the results. And that ought to be an expectation from the clients. So
it should be. And
your experience level.
Yeah. And most of our clients tell us they see results in as little as 30 days, and they get at least 3 times the investment that they make with us. And we track all that stuff. We track metrics and results because we want to live into that. We want to be, integrity is a huge part of our company. So I want to make sure we're living in integrity.
Results, tracking. I'm getting really excited.
I hope everybody else is. But if you're an entrepreneur, resistance to metrics is probably the biggest thing that entrepreneurs have, but that's okay. I get you. That's why you have someone like Vanessa who helps you track all that stuff.
I love it. I love the shout outs. I love the little simple things that make a big impact. Jean, I know you've been pretty humble here. Look, I have looked at your website. I have seen the results that you deliver. I have seen the testimonials, and I'm the rare guy that does due diligence before hopping on these calls, and I'm super impressed. So I want to encourage people, to go check that out. But before we do, I've got to ask you a question, two questions actually, and then we'll move to that. One is, so what kind of initiatives are you working on right now? So I really want you to, you've been great about promoting other people and, serving, but I want you to just unabashedly, speak into the impact you're creating in the world. What kind of campaigns are you running now? How are you serving people right now, Dr. Jean?
So we serve people a lot of ways. The fact is that we're in the process of doing some free training for people, because we have some free tools that people can have that we actually use with our clients. So we're actually taking stuff that out of our programs and teaching them to our folks. I am an EOS implementer. So the fact is that we do the sales and marketing, and then the structure that you need so it runs your business seamlessly, which is great, because we find that without great structure, you can't have great sales and marketing. And without great sales and marketing, you have absolutely no structure because you have no business. So those are the things that we're working on. I'm writing a new book, and I just launched a nonprofit organization. So I'm a little busy. A few things.
Nice. Do you know the name of your book yet?
No, I haven't figured that out yet. I'm still not quite yet. It might be The Other Side of Mommyhood. It might be Caveman Brain. There's a couple. I come from entrepreneurs who wrote books, and I've got like 3 going on right now. So as soon as I'll let you know once I get there.
You're going to keep us on pins and needles, Dr. Jean. Nice. Yeah. Well done. Well done. Keep the suspense. And your nonprofit, what area is that? How are you serving people through the nonprofit?
So the nonprofit's called The Other Side of Mommyhood, and it's for, no offense to men, but it's for women. And as women, we get really caught up in our children's lives, and then they go to college, and then we're stuck because we've been fired from this job we love for 20 years. So what are we doing? And to me, a lot of those women could become entrepreneurs. So our nonprofit is to help women find their life once their children have moved on. I'm on the other side of mommyhood, so I want to teach all the lessons to people that no one taught me, and be able to live a great life once your kids have moved on, because you've put a lot of time and effort into that fabulousness, and then you've got, I don't know, another 50 years to do something else. So why not? Kind of thing. And to be able to, whether it's starting a nonprofit yourself or starting your own company or getting a job, the fact is that women need help to let go of their kids and know that they're going to be okay.
I love it. And all those skills they've learned along the way.
Oh,
deep, important stuff. I love it. That yes, I'm male, but that speaks to me too, because I watched my mom and other ladies go through that. So I love it. Absolutely love it. Deep and needed in the market. Jean, we're going to switch gears hard and fast here real quick. Look, we work to live. Yes, I pause because I never want to get that wrong. We work to live. right?
Okay.
Not live to work. Some entrepreneurs are like, what are you talking about? I'm dying to know, and I imagine you share that. So what's the most fun vacation you've ever had?
So I'm going to tell you this. I haven't had it yet. Now you're going to be intrigued. Okay. So I have traveled to 5 out of the 7 continents. And traveling is something that I love. Next year, I'm traveling to Antarctica.
Oh, nice.
And I'm going to be able to pick up my 6th continent, which will be South America, and my 7th continent, which is Antarctica. And the joy I feel about this trip, I'm getting a red jacket. I'm going to be able to see the penguins. I'm going to look at seals. I cannot wait to be on this incredible, and it's a bucket list item. And so the joy I feel about this trip it just can't come fast enough. It's almost 2.5 weeks out of my life. I don't think, taking 2.5 weeks out of any of your business, you're thinking like, oh my, my business is going to be great. I'm setting it all up to run. It's sort of like, it's not the cake that I'm making, it's the frosting that I'm putting on my business so that I can go. And so when you say like, it hasn't happened yet, which you're sort of like, well, it's your best vacation, Gene. I can give you lots. But in Antarctica, come on now. That is super special. And the reason why I can do that is because I'm an entrepreneur. And it's a year away, but the ship hasn't even been built yet. Think about that as an entrepreneur and the leap of faith. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be fine. There'll be a built ship, and I'm gonna be on it. Seeing incredible things that if I didn't have that entrepreneurial life, I could never ever experience that.
Great point. Great point.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. It's a little cold for me, but
it's going to be fine. Global warming and such,
Super excited for you. I know that'll be tremendous. Actually, I've known 2 people that have been on the podcast that have been there, so I'm happy to put you in touch with them. You might have questions.
Oh yes, please. Yeah. So,
Super
but I will tell you, the
stuff.
favorite vacation was I got to drive a race car and I beat my boyfriend. So I drove fast. I love fast cars.
Hope
Baby.
those are the same thing and not separated things.
Yeah, no, I did. I went 145 and he went like 137, and I was like, yeah, because I like fast cars.
Nice. I love it. See, that's what it's all about, right? Having a why, moving towards something. Look, you got trips to look forward to Antarctica. This is super exciting stuff. Dr. Gene, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. I love your energy. I know how much cool stuff you've done. So I want to encourage people that are listening and watching to go check out your website or some kind of social media of your choosing. So when somebody watches this and listens to this and they say, I got to reach out to the results queen, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can just come to cavemanbrain.com. Super easy. Just cavemanbrain.com, and you're going to find everything there, and you will be downloadable tools, the free training, anything you want to follow us on social media, whatever that might be. It's super easy, and you'll learn all about Caveman Brain and be able to implement it in your life so that you can harness that power to get more success.
I love it. I actually went there, checked out the free tools. You've got opt-ins, you have some free ebooks, and you've got all kinds of videos about messaging and marketing and all this cool stuff in the Caveman Brain. So I want to encourage you all to go check it out. But don't just listen to the podcast and just go look it up, but actually reach out with the intention of having a conversation, because that's what moves the ball forward. Like you said in the podcast, there's been a clear theme. So Dr. Gene, thank you. You could be doing other things, but you're here serving the audience, which I appreciate. So thank you for taking a chunk out of your day and sharing with us. I celebrate you. Thanks for being on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast.
Thank you.
This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom podcast, where leaders, seasoned entrepreneurs, and business owners share their wisdom. If you're looking for more on leadership, sales, marketing, or operations to drive team development, higher quality, and high-level sustainable profits, we encourage you to join the Built for Brilliance community on Facebook or reach out to us about one of our mastermind groups, coaching or consulting, or even fractional COO services. You can reach us at buildbrilliance.net/contact. We thank you for listening, for sharing the show, and appreciate your rating and reviews, as this makes more shows possible. Thanks for joining us.